Have you ever have you ever met someone and it just wasn't what you thought it was? So you decided to end things, but in turn, they won't allow you to end things. They decide that since they believe so strongly in their heart that you're the person for them, they're going to continue to pursue you, although you gave them a clear indication that you're no longer interested. If so, you may want to listen to this episode today. This episode is when the date isn't mutual, forced pursuits, real dangers, and true victims. Okay. So, as I said before, welcome back to Wrong Restore Podcast. What happens when a man or a woman keeps pursuing a person who clearly isn't interested, who really gets hurt in the end? So, in this episode, we're going to unpack the dangers of forced dating, power imbalances, the blurred lines between persistence and pressure. Okay, so what is forced date? What does forced dates mean? Or pressure encounters? Forced dates mean, as I said in the beginning, someone that you no longer have interest in. You've been clear with indication that you don't want to date. Say you've gone out with them, say you dated for about 4 months. And in between the 4 months, you decided that, you know what, this isn't going to work. Before we get any further in and they get hurt, let me just call it off because I know I don't feel the same way. And when you bring it to them, they give the impression that they understand when actuality, they don't want to understand. So instead, they're going to insist to pursue you despite you're uninterested, despite you being uninterested. I mean, so, what do some of those things look like? So, let's say during the time that y'all were dating for 4 months, they feel since they spent time with you and they took you out on dates that they deserve a return on their investment. So, they'll start manipulating you into feeling guilty. And in between having you feel guilty and the manipulation, they'll constantly keep trying to pursue you for a date. So they'll come up to you and say, "We haven't been out in a long time. We haven't been out. We haven't done anything." And they tell people that you guys are dating when you made it clear that you're not. So they're going around, they're telling people that you're dating. They're still asking out on dates because they believe you owe them this chance because they believe deep inside their heart that you are the one for them. And a lot of times, because people feel guilty and they don't know what the person's going to do, out of guilt, they'll say, "Okay, we can go out on a date." But inside, they don't want to be there. They show they don't want to be there. And the person is happy that they're there and they know that one day they'll change their mind and they'll go on and they'll be with them. And they'll frame this as because they frame it as they'll come around to it, they'll also tie it in and frame it as because this person doesn't know that they want me yet. And those are the dangers. I'm gonna tell you a short story. I was dating a guy for probably about 4 months. No, longer than 4 months. Probably about 6 months. We were dating and stuff. And I believe that he was interested in me because that's what he came off. He was interested in me. Little did I know he had a whole girlfriend in the background, an entire girlfriend. And when I found out, I was like, what's up? Like, are you going to, what are you doing? Like, you're not going to date me and her. I've been cheated on before, so I don't condone none of this. And so he was like, well, I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do because this is what my grandparents went through. We not in 1954 or 1965. Okay, women have jobs. They have their own means of supporting themselves. We don't go off of to marry a guy or be with a man and wait for him to make a decision because we have nothing else going on. Women have things going on. Let's just be honest with that. And then so he continued to complain about her, and I said, you know what? it sounds like you don't like her. And what you need to do is you need to break up with her. Not for me. I would never tell nobody to break up for someone for me. But I told him for yourself. And you need to heal yourself. And if we're meant to do anything, then we'll be something. And he insisted, no, no, I need more time. I'm a breakup with her in August. Mind you, we're in February. February when he says this. And I said, and I'm thinking to myself, this fool really think I'm gonna wait around until August for him to make a decision? No, I'll make the decision for you. I'll just remove myself. So he kept pleading like, "Oh no, I'm not with her. I'm not with her." And I said, "Mm-hmm, mm-hmm." So it was probably about Memorial Day in May. He said, I'm gonna go home because he's not from Maryland. And I was like, if he goes home, I told myself, he goes home and he goes and stays with her and he, he stays there, he spends the whole time there. No, I'm going to definitely let him know why I removed myself because I removed myself already. So he went back home. He stayed at her house. I removed myself. And the only reason that he started to force the idea of dating was because she threw him out. She must have found out that he was talking. I don't think he was talking to me. I think he was talking to other people. And he he called and he was like, she threw me out. And I'm like, well, what you want me to do with that? It sound like she got tired and it sound like you did it to yourself. And I proceeded to end the call. So because of that, now because we work in the same job, he's always trying to still take me out, still trying to spend time for me. And I'm like, dude, do you not? No, no, we're not an item. No, we're not together. No, no, no. I finally told the two people who came to me and told me that he said that we were dating. I said we are not dating, and I told them why. Only because I know they don't say anything. And they were just shocked that he had a whole girlfriend and trying to be a player in the background. So I said, yes, yes. So those are things that they do. He wasn't respecting my boundaries. He kept trying to come to my house. He kept trying to take me out. And I kept saying, no, 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 no way. So those are some of the examples of what forced dates look like. Now, why is it dangerous? Because you some women, if they don't do what I did and how I made it clear, is they then feel unsafe, trapped, or guilty for rejecting. And now I was guilty of that. I did feel guilty for sometimes rejecting, even though I knew what it was, because it was like, they can serenade and sweet talk their way in to making you change your mind, some of them. So, and in some ways they you would feel unsafe would be you don't know if, for instance, in that situation, I don't know if the girl knew about me, looked up me online, found out where I live, and will pop up at my house. Or if I tell him no, is he going to get physically violent, you know? And then you feel trapped because you want to move on, just for you and leave the door open for the right person, but they're not getting out the way for the right person. And you feel since they there, you like, I might as well make this work. They're always here, they're always there for me. And they're always trying to help me out. No, they're trying to gain that control because if they really respected you, they would give you your space and they would understand why you feel this way. Um, the other thing is physical dangers may escalate to harassment or violence. And the same guy I'm sorry. The same guy I had found out that he had prior relationship before the one that I was talking about, where the girl, I guess, from what I was told, the girl didn't want to do the relationship anymore. They were dating for about a year. She didn't want to do it anymore. She decided to go back and work things out with her ex-husband. And for they had kids, and he, I guess, couldn't handle it. So he started following her around and followed her to a venue for a concert, and then that turned into a police officer showing up at his house. Police officer showing up at his house. I mean, to tell him, hey, you gotta stay away from her. And they started watching him. And when he told the story, he said, like, the police officer just came to his house and threatened him. And I was like, and I told the person, why would, if this girl loved him like he claimed, why would she give up his address? You know what I'm saying? Why would she give up his address? You know what I mean? Because she no longer lives with this man. This man is no longer important in her life. The only thing is important are the kids they share. So why would you sell out the person that you love, give up the address unless he hurt her and put her in the hospital and killed her? And seeing that she was alive and well and unharmed, that stuff didn't even happen. Um, so therefore he was lying. He felt like he was owed a return on his investment because he spent so much time with her and took her around, spent so much time with her kids, but no one asked you to do all of that because he tried trying to do that thing with me. My kids aren't destitute, dear. They don't need someone to come in and fill daddy shoes, okay? They know who daddy is. All right. So that's a thing that they do. They tend to play on the fact, especially if you have kids, especially if the kids are in like a situation like a separation between the parents or like a situation where the father is not home and not really involved. They tend to play on that because that's their way in to the children. But for some reason my children they don't fall for that. They just like, and what do you want? Because they already know they good. Mama got them good, okay? So those are the things that they do, and that also leads to um, women irrationalizing fear, self blame, anxiety around dating. So every time, if you don't set a boundary with this or you don't handle this in a specific way where you cut them off completely, and deal with the issues that happen, a lot of times, even after you deal with the issues that happen, a lot of times when you go to date someone else, you can have that fear of dating because it gives you anxiety. You like, okay, if I give this person my number and let's say I'm no longer interested, are they going to harass me? Are they going to try to hurt me? Or are they going to follow me around? That stuff plays in your mind and it makes women concerned. So I really need people to understand that rejection isn't the end. It's like people say, rejection is God's protection. That person may not have been the person for you, and that's either way. That person may not have had what you thought they had for you. And that's the way of God's protecting you from them. And, or it may be a situation where you may need to do some self development on yourself. You may not be fully ready for this situation. And before God hands it to you, He's going to make sure that you do the necessary work to obtain and sustain this relationship. You Nothing about love is forced. Love is easy, clear, and direct. It's not always going to be sunshine, flowers, and marshmallows, but it's not going to be difficult. Communication is going to be simple, but not always easy. Okay, but because when you're with someone, you have to find different ways to communicate because certain ways that you may think is okay to communicate, it may not be a good communication style. Like if you are a kind of person that tends to talk and when you get upset, you get a little loud, the person may perceive it as you yelling at them when you're not even yelling. You're just talking louder with emphasis in your voice. So that's what I mean, different communication styles. Um, And the other thing is normalizing this behavior teaches men that women's boundaries don't matter. And like I said, this goes vice versa. So please, when you're out here and you're in the dating world, you make sure that you express your boundaries, your concerns, and what you need for this to go forward. That's both ways. And another thing, when you go out on these dates, you do not have to tell this person where you live. Whatever female that was that made it okay and known, or person that made it known and okay for you to meet them at the venue, kudos to you because it's about safety at the end of the day. It's about keeping people safe. And if you don't really know them to get in a car with them, you don't have to. You can go and meet them at the venue, place, or wherever y'all going to go, and then y'all can part ways. You can go home. And I really wish people understand that that's okay. That is okay. He doesn't need to come to your house because it's kind of contradictory when I hear online. I want you to take me on a date, but no, you cannot come to my house to Netflix chill. I don't want you at my house to Netflix and chill. I don't want you at my house to pick me up. I'll meet you there. Because if this doesn't work, I don't really know your personality and you may pop up at my home. Okay. So that is something that women really need to put boundary on. Just being okay with meeting them there for the first date. Because, hmm, like I said, you don't know who he is. Everybody puts on a persona to be sane, to be a good person, to be pathetic, to be a grounding individual. But underneath all of that, you don't know if that's who they really are. So you might want to explore that. And also, everything doesn't have to be secluded. I know some people say, you know, I want to go. Uh, I'm trying to think of a place where you just go and it's just a little bit of people. Like you don't have to go to the movies because a lot of people don't go to the movies like that. You don't have to go to a secluded place. You can make it an adventure. Like you can go for a walk in the park. There are plenty of people in the park. And you can go to. I saw a couple making candles together when I made candles with my friends. You can go there. It's keeping it in the public until you feel safe and it's okay to meet them there. And then when you get comfortable, you can make other arrangements. Because the way society is now and the way um I read in the news, the girl, I think she was in PG County. I don't know the ins and outs of the story. I just know that she must have met a guy at a gas station and he killed her. You know, she got in the car, he took her back and he killed her and dumped her body. Like you have to be careful with these people. And you don't just because it's a date doesn't mean you have to get in the car with them. And that's both ways. So you take that how you want. I'm just telling you. All right. And the next section is who is the real victim? On the surface, men often claim to be the victims of rejection or loneliness. And again, this ties into rejection is God's protection. They have ego issues, they have self esteem issues. Because if you don't want them, that shouldn't ruin them, that shouldn't deteriorate who they are. But for some, it does because they're not happy with being alone. And everyone at this point in their lives, at some point in their lives, should be happy with being alone because that's when you start to find out your own interests, what you like, what you don't like, and what you enjoy, and just being alone in your own company and letting God just love all over you. So it's okay to be alone. So, because when you are alone, you're never really alone. But you know, if someone walks away, you're gonna be okay. So, and in reality, some women become the true victims or the person, when their boundaries and needs are dismissed because if a person, like I said, if a person is telling you, no, I'm no longer interested, that's not the green light to say, okay, let me try something else because I'm going to keep going because I know that this is my person and nobody ever tells me no because I don't take rejection well. Well, you just what? You need to take rejection really well because that won't be the first time, the last time, the second time, or the 100th time that someone has rejected you. I know you see people and some people say, I don't have a lot of rejection. I've faced a lot of rejection. Honestly, how much time that they spend putting themselves out there to meet people. Because if it's not a lot, if it's less than 50%, then who would have had time to reject you if you were never seen? So we can't really go by that. And the times when you may have been talking to someone or you may have been in a relationship, you don't know would have done what? You was tied up in a relationship. So, and just know that rejection is a part of life. You're going to reject it from a job, from a relationship, from a bank, from a creditor, from friends, from a social circle, whatever. You're going to face rejection. And it's not the green light to force them to make them like you and tell them, you should have approved my credit application. No, they said no, go away. So, well, not really go away, but find ways where you can improve so they can eventually at some point, if that's where it's meant for you to be. Also, men may feel bruised by pride, but women risk their safety, peace, mind, and their lives. And it's all engaged into the story I told you about the girl in PG County. And she's not the only one. I also watched a what was it? Fatal Affairs on the Discovery app. And this lady, she was desperate for love. She was desperate for love. And it was Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and she got a job as a substitute at, well, I think she no, she got a job as a teacher. She was a permanent teacher. And she started dating the principal of the school. And the principal of the school was saying that he was going through a divorce, and he was leaving his wife and he was filing for divorce. So she was like, okay. And then unfortunately, because they started messing around early, she got pregnant before the end of his divorce. And so he was like, don't worry about it, we'll be good, but you just know that I'm leaving my wife. So he was leaving his wife, and he then, right about when she was probably like further along her pregnancy, probably like 6 or 7 months, I believe her friend said on the documentary, that she was about 6 or 7 months, and he told her he had to go to a family reunion with his family. And I thought that was kind of odd. You're going to a family reunion, you got this pregnant woman, and you're not taking her to go to the family reunion. That's because he was with his wife on a cruise. He had no intention on leaving his wife. He um he then was lying to her, saying that he was happy about the baby, when in turn he wasn't happy about the baby. He was Googling how to kill her and the baby and her 3-year-old. And he ended up killing her. Um, but I just say all that to say that when, it was indications, there was other indications that he was occupied, because um, saying you're gonna get divorced and getting a divorce is two totally different things. And um, lying about what your marital status is, and your income status, because he told her he had all this money. Turned out he lived in a trailer. She found this information, and he went and lived in the trailer. So he was just messing around with her, had his wife, but he also had another girlfriend on the side who picked him up after he killed her and drove him back to his car, and she didn't know he was married either. So a lot of times men will let you know in subtle movements that they are interested. And one of the main things was he didn't take her to their family reunion, and they were dating well over a year, and almost a year, and she was pregnant, and no one knew she existed. And that's an indication that he wasn't interested, and he was lying about something. So women, you want to make sure that you are protecting yourself, especially if you have kids attached to you. Protecting yourself to protect those kids. Because everybody intention isn't good. So not saying that that'll happen, but I hope that never happens to anyone. But I know out here in this world that happens several times. But to lessen that from happening, want to make sure that you are looking at the signs. Okay. Um, the other thing is, um, like the root of the problem, toxic masculinity and entitlement. If I want her, she owes me a chance. That's what the guy did in that show. He wanted her, and she owed him a chance. He wasn't honest with her, and he kept it where it was strictly at the school. She could never go to his house. She didn't know where he lived. You're dating this man, you have a baby on the way. But some people get so tangled up in the idea of having someone, they forget the signs. This guy was very not interested, and he was trying to keep you over there so his wife would never know. Um, and which is lack of emotional intelligence and respect for boundaries. So the boundaries, he didn't respect her. boundaries because she was very upfront what she was looking for. She was looking for a stable man to help take care of her child, and she needs a guy who was going to be emotionally available, and he didn't do none of that. Not when you're plotting to kill. Another thing is, I know I've said this several times, but it's true. Culture and media glorifies a lot of this as romantic, you know, except for the Fatal Affair story and what happened to her in PG County. But they glorify a lot of the things where if a guy is persistent in pursuing you and applying pressure and telling you you just need to be ready at 7 when you have no intention on going on this date and you've said it, you don't want to date anymore. Even if you're in a relationship with them and you tell them, hey, I don't want to do this anymore, we need to take a step back. People need to honor those requests. Stop saying, oh, well, he really loved her. Why could she say no? She needs to say no. Especially all these public apologies I was seeing on stage in the middle of people's concerts. That's so rude. They on stage, they trying to do their job. They're trying to give the fans what they want, and here you come to make it all about you. That is very selfish. That is manipulation. That is the biggest form of manipulation. Um, and that's like coming to your job and interrupting you in the middle of something that you're doing to give you something, and you already said you don't want this. Like you taking the shine off me and putting it on you. So everybody could be like, oh, that has happened to me before. And I was like, okay, because you came up here with flowers at school and I'm supposed to say sorry. And after one girl was like, oh my God, he gave you flowers. I wish a guy would give me flowers since you could take the flowers. And him. So that's something that you guys want to keep in mind. Um, and that'll lead you to healthy alternatives once you figure out all the rest and you set boundaries and you clear on what you want and what you don't want, and you make it clear to the person you stand firm on it firm on it. That'll bring you to healthy alternatives. And that teaches the importance of if things are reciprocated, then it's not right. And it'll help you reframe rejection and let you know it's not an insult. It's a redirection towards someone who will generally match your energy, as I mentioned before. And it's okay. And I just want to make sure that women understand staying firm to say no and learn to respect that no goes can go. No is powerful and it'll get you respect that you need. The guy will be like, you know what, I can't get over on her. She'll tell you no in a minute. You ever heard those girls that be like, yeah, don't talk to her. She's like, no, 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 no. That's because she know her worth. And she know that you're not gonna get over her with these crazy ideas that you have in your head that you think are gonna work. She's like, that's not gonna work for me. I said no. And I meant no. And if you can't meet these qualifications, then no. Okay. So of course I'm gonna give you a Bible verse to end this podcast. I have two. The first one comes from 1 Corinthians 13:5. Love does not insist on its own way. And the second one comes from Amos 3:3. Do two walk together unless they have agreed to do so? So I want you to think about those Bible verses and use those when you are journaling. I have a journal prompt for you because we should all be journaling, because journaling is important. It's about our growth and our goals and our ambitions and intuition and things that we need to address, but we don't know how to address. So we write them down. So the journaling prompt is, what does mutual energy feel like for me? And how do I honor it in relationships? So I want you to think about that. I really want you to think about that. And in the next episode, I'm going to share my feedback on this. Like I'm going to really share my feedback on from the other episode, the journal questions about is it happening for you or to you? So I'm going to get ready to answer those as well. But I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. I hope that you share and subscribe to this podcast because this podcast is all about growing and achieving and changing that mindset and gaining that confidence so we can do what's meant for us to do. And it's not just in relationships, it's in everything in life. Um, so that way we are our best authentic selves and we don't have to worry about trying to fit in or trying to be a part of someone else's um, goals that aren't aligned with us. Okay. So back to the other episode with the journal questions on is this happening for you or to you? So there were three questions that I asked. The first question was, what situation in your life feels like it's happening to you? So the situation right now that I feel like it's happening to me is the fact that I can even get on here and do this podcast because uh 3 years ago, even last year, 6 months ago, I wasn't even thinking about doing even starting a podcast. And I always had people tell me, you give good advice, you explain things really well. When are you gonna start something of your own? First it was like fashion and stuff. They're like, oh, you can dress for a while. When are you gonna drop your own thing? I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I want to do that until my back was against the wall. And we had the what is it, the cutbacks, and I had to come out of management and because I wasn't a permanent manager and go back to a lead, so I lost some of my income and I was like, you know what? I think it's time that I give this a try. I just didn't know how I was gonna do it. Um, what Another question is how can you reframe it as something happening for you? For me to be more confident, be brave, share my stories, my testimonies in hopes that it will guide y'all accordingly and then make better decisions and get a better outcome without have to going through a series of mistakes because we always going to make mistakes. But my thing is so you don't have to keep repeating those mistakes. Encourage. So encourage in the journal and prayer reflection as I mentioned. So I always encourage people to journal. As I said, journal, journal, journal. That's our goals. That's how we, do our manifestations. That's how we write down our thoughts, our prayers, our things that we want to achieve. So, and we pray over them. Give them to God and pray over them. And one thing that I think God is trying to reveal to me in this season is to be courageous, to be uplifted, but definitely be courageous and confident, and to be open to possibilities because that's one thing that I've always lacked for a long time was being confident and open. Um, I always thought that everyone had so much more than me, and I was always so far behind that I didn't measure up to have people around me. So that's one thing that God is showing me. He's been showing me that for a while, and I'm gonna share it with you. You do have the confidence, and you do deserve to have a good community around you. So I would love to hear your answers for last week's podcast. You can leave them on that episode, or you can leave them here with your question or your answers to the new journal prompt that I just gave to you. If you want to share, I would love to read those. And until next time, bye.